There was one player that he thought he should have been playing over another player. And certainly he was more talented. But you told him, it's a shame you're not playing, it's a shame you're letting the other guy beat you out because he wasn't a team player. And I don't think he understood that at the time. Because he knew he could go in and score 25 points for you. He thought that was important. But yet, you were tough on him, really, really tough on him. And you have just an incredible relationship with this man.
Right.
How? Obviously it didn't happen right away.
No.
Some later date or something? Or?
Well, this particular individual, I think he knew I liked him. There's no question about that. And as you're right, he had more physical ability to play his position than the players that were playing ahead of him. And he would come to me and say, you know I'm better than so-and-so, you know I'm better than so-and-so. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's just a shame you're letting him beat you out. But until you learn to play the team, that's going to happen. What if he does score, let's say he would come in there and score 20 points a game for you. But while he's doing that, there's 4 other players that are going to score 4 or 5 less than they would be playing if he wasn't in there. And the player that would be replacing him is not going to score as much as he's done, but he's going to score half as much as far as the scoring point of view. And I'm speaking just of scoring. This would pertain to defense and other things too. And I'm concerned about the whole, not the individual. And I do love the individuals, and I want them to put their abilities to use for the welfare of the team. I think this certain individual, and I believe you might agree with me, Swen, I think that was his first year with us. And I think the next 2 years he learned, and I think he was the best best player, that position at any college in the country.
No doubt about that. One key word you mentioned that might be one of the keys to this toughness in the relationship, as you said, I believed that he believed I liked him. And I know going to schools all around the country, I hear students, because I do pull-out instruction, I hear students say, my teacher doesn't like me. That's one thing that we can always do, can't we? We can have them to think that somehow that there is a respect and there's a liking, right?
Yeah,
is that important to this?
It isn't necessarily not liking me, it's not disliking. There's a little difference there between the two, but I would tell, as you know, that I would not like you all the same. I loved you all the same, but I would not like you all the same. My own children at times, I'm unlike them the same. It would have no connection with my love for them at all. But I wanted all my players to know that I really cared for them as individuals, and down deep, I feel that helped them it helped us have a better basketball team if the players knew that.
There was one player that played in the 60s that was a very, very good basketball player and might have been one of the best in the country, certainly was. And he was frustrated because he wasn't playing the team game and you put him on the bench and he wanted to go home, back east. How did you handle that?
Well, I called his parents and told them that he was having trouble. He didn't like the way that I was using him. He was a hot dog, that's what he was, and something I've never liked. I don't like the fancy stuff. I don't like the dunk. I'd get rid of that in a hurry if I could. Then the fancy stuff. I didn't want him behind the back dribbling, between the legs dribbling. I don't care how much the fans cheered. I don't like it.
You didn't want a 6'11" guy dribbling up the court, Coach?
You know that, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I learned the hard way.
But this individual, he didn't like the way, and I took him out of a game. We were on the road because he got fancy, and I took him out again to put him back in. We lost the game, and I think with him in there, probably we would have won the game. And the next night we played another game, and I didn't play him at all the next game. He sat down there, so he called home, but I knew he was going to call home, so I called his dad. And I told him that he was going to be calling, and I told him what had happened. And so he called. His dad said, "Don't come home. No place for you. No one to quitter. Don't come home." So he never completely overcome that, but.
How did you know he was going to call home?
I can say that I really knew, but I wanted the parents to know that in case he did. And, I know what she was.
You seem to have known a lot about your players. And you talk about treating them the way they earned and deserved. How did you know so much about each of these individuals?
Well, first of all, I tried to study transcripts of all the youngsters that I would be recruiting. That's one of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get an analysis, and I had a form that I sent out to 5 other coaches that played against this particular player and find out what they think of a lot of things more than just his basketball ability. I'd want to know what his parents did and various things about him. And I would know more about the youngster than just his basketball ability. And then as time goes by, after you have them there, you learn more about their personalities and how they react to others, both on and off the court, and things of that sort. I mean, you just sort of, you have to constantly be analyzing and studying those under your supervision, I think.
And what kind of things did you try to find out? You mentioned that not just basketball. What sort of things were you looking for?
I wanted to know about their extracurricular activities. I like to know, like I would tell my players, I don't care what your religion is, I want you to have one. I want you to stand up for it, and I want you to believe in it, but I want you to always stay open-minded. Please stay open-minded. I don't care what your politics are, but stay open-minded. We're going to differ in politics. I'm not going to try to sell you on my religion or my political beliefs. Have your own, but we'll be able to stand by. Stay open-minded. And I think in talking to them in that matter, I find out a lot about. I would know from the parents' backgrounds and the occupations of them and so on, and whether other children in the family. You find little things that might be helpful. Maybe not a lot, but you find.
I remember a story you told once about you knew that one of your students' fathers had been an accomplished boxer. And you used that to deal with a difficult situation. I don't know if you want to tell that story.
Well, I probably couldn't do that today, but I had 2 players that were they're about the same size, and one was both very likable. He's extremely likable, but he was always kind of, I had trouble keeping him focused on what we wanted all the time. And then this one player who was an outstanding student, and his father was a professor at the University of Notre Dame. This one didn't like him very well because the one had a little better manners and things, and he was always causing problems at practice. And I finally said, I've had enough of this, come on. And I took him to the boxing ring. I put gloves on him, and I said, we're going to settle this once and for all. But I'd talked to the parents beforehand, before I did this, and I knew that the one, his father was a Big Ten boxing champ, and I knew he had a ring at home, and I knew that his son was knew something about him, was a good boxer. And I knew the other I'd pick in the alley, but I don't have an alley. I have in the boxing ring with gloves on. And boy, this one, this is great. I'm going to clean his clock. Yeah, you could see his attitude. And so I told him, I said, you're going to fight. You're not coming out pussyfooting around. We're going to settle this. So he came rushing out, and he drew, and about that time, whammed him down. He went right off the bat. Well, he thought that's what a surprise. He got up kind of quickly, looked around, say, well, boy, that was what a lucky punch. And he went after again this time. He went back, and the other fellow faked him a little and came down. He gave him a good one that time. He really whacked him down. He goes down. The blood's coming down of his nose, and he's dazed. And so I go over and I said, have you had enough? And he said, I want one more chance. So I gave him one more chance, and in about a few seconds, he's flat on his back again. And I'm over and over him with the smelling salts and some water and stuff. And I said, well, have you had enough? And he said, yep, I barked up the wrong tree. Now, they became very close friends. And it's not particularly strange. Some things like that can bring you together, just like adversity can bring you together, and other things can bring you together. And they were very good friends. But now I'd be in trouble doing that today in later years.
But there must have been other examples where things weren't going so well with one of your students or your players, and you delved and you used that information. Can you give us an example?
Well, along that line, I'm trying to think of
Like Swen.
No, not me.
Yeah, let me ask you about Swen. 'Cause
well, I can tell you about Swen, and you all know that my love for Swen. He played for Don Johnson, who had played for me, and Swen hadn't played high school basketball, and but he was big, and Don told me that that he thought that he could, with time, was going to be a real good basketball player. He didn't say he was a good player at that time, but he had something that not many have, that size, beautiful physique and all. So I told Swen if he came to UCLA, he was going to have the opportunity to work against a player that I thought was going to be one of the greats. And I said, you won't get to play much. You won't get to play but very little in all probability, but I honestly believe by your working against this player day in, day out for 3 years, that when you graduate, you will have a chance to play professional basketball if you want to do that. I don't care whether they want to play professional basketball. I want them to get a good education, but you'll have a chance to play professional basketball if you want to. Much better than you'll have going someplace else where you might play, but you won't be playing against this. Now, the player, of course, that I'm speaking of is Bill Walton, who was just coming in. I had no one of size to work against him, and he needed that. I think that Swen had an awful lot to do with Bill Walton becoming the great player that he was, and I think Bill Walton had an awful lot to do with of Swen being the Rookie of the Year in the ABA, leading rebounder in the NBA, and up until a few years ago, and it may be true, I don't know, Swen might know, he held the record in the NBA of most rebounds per minute. Is that still, you know? Have you heard that?
I think I'm eighth all time.
Well, then that's still pretty darn good, isn't it? And I think in this particular situation, I happen to be right. I think it worked out exactly as I said it might. I think it helped Swen's development tremendously as a basketball player, and I hope as a person, and I think it helped Bill tremendously. But I remember when the first year, I hope Swen won't be offended, that Bill made him look pretty bad, but he improved, he kept improving. The next year, he didn't make him look bad. Bill was still superior, but he didn't look so bad. And the third year he worked against him, I think he gave Bill all he wanted. And Bill will say today that he think maybe Swen was the best center he played against all year. And I'm glad things worked out that way. I think it benefited all. It helped benefit Swen, it benefited, it's benefited Bill, it's benefited the team, and benefited the coach a little bit, I'd say.
You know, in all the attention that those teams won, I think it would be easy to lose sight of that may have been one of the greatest acts of teaching that one could imagine. Because you put it this way, what if you were teaching calculus and you told the student, you're not going to get a grade, you're not going to get any credit, you're just going to learn a lot? Can you, I mean, there are a lot of teachers who would like to know how you motivated Swen to put up with this situation where he's not going to get a grade, he's not going to get to play, he's not going to get the fanfare, he's going to get the promise of some future, perhaps. What was the magic there?
I think I was honest with him, and I think he realized that I was being honest with him. And I think probably, and I haven't talked to Swen about this, but Don Johnson, for whom he played, was very dear to me, and Don Collette and his family have been dear to me all the years, and he played for me all the 50s, and I think Don probably indicated this to him. I don't know. I'm sure he could have gone someplace else, and he could have gone someplace else. I'm sure he would have become a good player, but I don't think he'd become as good as he was able to by having the opportunity to work against. It's not like playing against somebody once a week or 3 or 4 or 5 times a year. He'd work against him every day for 3 years, and I'm so happy it worked out the way it did.
The first year was rough, Coach. You were right.
Bill got upset at you a lot too because, frankly, your footwork wasn't all that best, and you were still big and strong, and you beat him up a little bit in his mind.
That was just
and
an accident.
Probably in my mind too. I think it was an accident.
Just an accident.
There might be an occasion. There might be an occasion that might have been a little intentional, but for the most part, it was an accident.
You know, whenever I lose my balance, my elbow just goes like this.
Yeah.
He just happened to be in the way.
Yeah.
So you've got a group full of diversity. I mean,
Of course.
Let's say you're a teacher teaching a classroom full of children, and you've got 3 children who just transferred in from Mexico, and they don't speak much English. And you've got these advanced students over here that are already reading, you know, textbooks and things like that, and you've got a group in the middle. How do you handle all that and get everyone to improve?
Remember, Swen, you don't handle people.
How do you work with these people?
That's what you work with
So
people.
that everyone improves.
You handle things. You work with people. Yeah.
How do you keep correcting me so that
You've got to
you never stop correcting, Coach, right?
You've got to understand the differences, and there again, you can't treat them all alike. I think it would be difficult for you mentioned to have different nationalities in your class. It'd be different because you can't. Even those of the same nationality, you can't. They're all different, and so it would be very. I couldn't do a very good job of that, but I could let them all know that I cared for them, and if they knew that I cared for them, I think that would provide inspiration for some of them to try to do well. I think most people try to do well for those whose under supervision they are. Most of them. I think they want to. Most people want to be liked, and if you show appreciation and give them credit and acknowledge. I tried, Swen, in my practices, I gave more pats on the back to the fellows that weren't getting to play very much, and the nod and the smile and the wink, than I did to those that were playing, because they were needed and they were wanted, and I wanted them to know that. Now, and that type of thing, could that work in the classroom, as you've mentioned? I don't know, but I think letting them know you care, and that'll come through. If you really care, it'll come through whether it's show or not. And I think if you do that, I think that will be an encouragement for them to try to do well in whatever they're doing, whether it be math or English or football or basketball, whatever it might be.
So they won't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's true. That's a good.
So that is, without the love, without the concern, without the genuine interest in them as a person, without that, you know, like you said, not disliking.
I believe that very definitely.
It's difficult.
Remembering that that there's going to be exceptions, always. I've often said, never say never. Never say never. You can say most of the time, but never say never.
When you're working with a class, let's go back to a few years to teaching English, for example. But in a basketball setting, it's very easy to keep the interest of the players. Mm-hmm. We know why we're doing this, and we're competing, and so we're always interested in what we're doing. But in a classroom, sometimes that might not be the case.
That's true.
Is interest really key to classroom management, and if so, how do you get that interest going?
Well, I think it's very important. Let's say that we have an assignment of a composition. Now, you read all these compositions. Here's some very good ones. Now, you're going to let the youngsters that wrote the very good instructor know. Let's pick out some that maybe not so good, but they're not capable of doing this, but they've done it the best you can. It's like just making the effort to do the best you can, and you can tell that. So I might have someone of that sort read their composition in class to the others and commend on it. And then now someone that isn't very good at all on it, maybe in their maybe in the punctuation and maybe in the sentence structure and so on, don't have them do it in front of the class. But you're going to work with them more individually, but never get them to be embarrassed in front of the class. But those that others, instead of picking out the very top ones, now you might on occasionally a very top, but you let them know, but you might not do it so much in front of the others.
Did you ever have a troublemaker in your English classes?
Of course.
How did you work with that person?
I tried not to. No, there would be some that were maybe troublemakers just because they're too active. Maybe they needed help otherwise. And you try to deal with it as best you can to get them. You may, by changing their seating position, you may be able to control it better. You may be just getting them away from somebody else that they like to show off before somebody. And just ways of that you have to work out to try to distract attention. You're going to have some that just want attention, just want attention. And you've got ways that to distract them from that.
But you would try to, you're trying to study this person. You're trying to figure out why they're doing this. And didn't you didn't you look around and hear from other people things that about this person, did maybe the parents, maybe their friends? Didn't you kind of hang around the playground or something?
Well, yes, and you talk to other teachers that had a youngster and find out if they're having the same problems and maybe how they're working with the situation. You try to find out things. Don't discard the person. Don't try to help. But they always remember that there is a line of demarcation sometime. There's somewhere there has to be a line of demarcation. But I'd rather lose a person by going too far than not far enough.
You seem to know me better than I knew myself, what I was thinking and all that, and I knew you were studying me. But didn't you attend some class at UCLA? I think you did.
Yes, I did.
Some psychology
Yes,
classes
I did.
while you were coaching?
Yes, I did. Not for credit, just I did. Yeah, so I couldn't be there every day, but I did on some. Yes.
Why did you
Yeah.
go? Why did you do that?
Well, I wanted to learn more about that. I think would help me. I sat in on a psychiatry class one time too. We got out of there in a hurry though.
Why is that?
Oh, I was just kidding on that, but I wasn't comfortable in it. I'll say that.
So you learned.
Know then thyself. What is it? Who was it said? That Ron would know. Gaethje. Know then thyself. Presume not God to scan. The proper study of mankind is man.
So that makes a big difference when you know your children. It seems to me that the more I know about a person, the more I like that person. Or the more there is to like about him, right?
Yes.
A little knowledge is something that might have some direct relation.
Me like Mr. Lincoln, though, you know. Never met him. How would they say?
Never met him.
No. Make first impressions.
Oh.
Don't rely on first impressions. As he said, you know, he met a person once and irritated him a little. He said he found out later that wasn't true at all. He didn't irritate him a little. He irritated him a lot. So don't depend on first impressions.
Sounds like you had a lot to do when you were coaching, and I know you were very organized with your time. But we also knew, the word on you was, before I even signed my letter of intent, that John Wooden, after practice, he spends some time finishing his practice plan for the next day, or some notes, takes a shower, and then if there's training table, he goes. But as soon as his job is done there, he is home, because that's where he wants to be.
Sure.
He wants to be with his family, and that was your priority.
That's right.
Were you always able to do that, or in the early years, did you ever bring?
There were times, no, of course, but you try to do as much as you can. You got to make the effort. Whatever it is, make the effort to do it. And I would make the effort. You know, I talk about the 3 F's. I say family, faith, and friends, and that's not the proper order. I should have faith first, but I think you'll understand.
Yeah.
But that's very important. You've all heard this statement. Some people get so busy making a living they forget to make a life, and that really happens. And I hoped it wouldn't. I hoped it wouldn't be that way, and I tried to make an effort. But there were times when you just you do have the job, and there's certain times you can't. But I made the effort to try to keep family up there first.
And I guess that would mean saying no to a lot of things that you were asked to do, right? Especially when you were
might like to do.
What's that?
And you might like to do.
Like golf or something like that.
Yes, it does. Yeah, but there is a choice you have to make in everything you do, and you better keep in mind the choice you make will make you.
Right. So you didn't bring your work home?
No, I did not do that.
Right.
My Nellie would tell you that. I never brought my work home. She'd have problems at home too, you know, at times.
Yeah.
Not very much. My daughter Nan, of
Oh, is
course,
that right?
but my son Jim was a little more rambunctious, you know. She might,
Yeah.
you know, there are different things. In my early years, for example, I found out that if practices weren't going well, I'd keep them late. I'd, you know, work them hard late. And I found out later that's wrong. My players know that I insist that they be there on time, and we start on time. They have a right to know that we're going to stop on time, and I wouldn't do that. And you know, when I speak at coaching clinics, I don't know whether this is going to be appropriate or not here, Ron, but when I speak at coaching clinics, most of the coaches will be young coaches. And I say, now, you young coaches, you must quit practice on time. You must get home on time. But you young coaches, you're all, you know, probably newly married, a young married couple, and you must get home on time. You don't want the wife upset, you know. You get home on time. Never get older, doesn't make any difference. But when you're young, you want to get home on time.
Okay.
Well, we're getting.
Are we getting
It's
there?
a little afternoon, so I know Swen has to leave because today he's singing the national anthem at the UCLA game, which I believe is a violation of NCAA rules. Is that right?
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
First time we ever did that.
I've got several tapes of him with my favorite hymns, and I've got a CD with one of my favorite, His Eyes on the Sparrow, and I got some good ones, Wind Under My Wings, and then some others. And
Can I ask one
Oh,
more?
absolutely, sure.
Are you competitive? Like if we were to play a game of golf right now,
yes,
I would whip you.
that's what you
But-
think.
See what I mean?
I'm like a tiger. I could go out there on one leg and whip you.
That's right. All right. And if I were putting, what would you say to me?
I might cough. Just as you brought the backswing.
Yeah.
Let's say, I might talk to the fellow next man. Do you think he has that lined up right? I wouldn't do that. No, not.
Oh, yes, you would. Yes, you would. I'd expect you to. Because you're a fierce competitor, but always within the rules, right? Now, you remember the net that we had was very, very stiff.
Yes.
Did you make a mistake? You ordered the wrong ones? Or was, that ball seemed to be rolling around in that net after we made the basket,
So we
just
never-
long enough.
We
so
need
could set
time
up
to
our
get
press.
set up. The press, yes. Do that, Tessie, you know
There was
that.
no rule against a stiff net.
Yeah. And I wouldn't, never intentionally foul. I just wanted to know who the poorest free throwers were.
So
They're more aggressively.
every advantage possible
Legal.
within the rules,
Legal.
legal.
Not all. No, I hope not all. I hope not all.
Well, we're talking
hope not.
about, if the net can be stiff, let's make it stiff.
Well, one of my favorite friends and coaches says that every time they change a rule, they'll find a coach that's going to get around it some way.
You didn't do that, did you?
No.
But you enjoyed the competition of any cribbage or golf?
Yeah, I love to play. I used to play cribbage, for example. You're bringing that with Danny Crum, one of my assistants. I used to tell him that from nose to chin, he was a good cribbage player, just from nose to chin.
Did you ever play these side games with the other coaches? Did you ever?
I don't think so. Not
No?
not seriously. Maybe clinics and things
Yeah.
that sort, but not seriously competition.
And I'm just going to say this, that in practice, everything you did, and in the games, you just sat there. And you had your own thing going, but we didn't see it. You allowed us to play. You allowed us to, if we made mistakes, we had to recover from it. You didn't call the timeouts. We had to work through our difficulties, our problems. Because we needed to do that so that we could learn to do that. You see a lot of coaches calling timeouts. And in practice, every single detail was, it got just kind of irritating to me sometimes, Coach. We're doing jump stops and pivots in February. And you're still correcting my foot if it isn't just, 2 inches this way or something. And But yet, all of that came together, and we understood, and now I understand even better, that it's just like telling somebody, are you sure you have that lined up right? It's every advantage possible. It seemed like because you were obligated, you had a responsibility to help us become the best that we could be.
And that was my job. But you know that I remember, I would tell you, for 2 hours a day, I want complete focus on our basketball practice. Complete, 100%. I don't care how pretty she is. You forget her for this 2 hours. I want complete concentration. But as soon as practice is over, what did I want you to become? A student at UCLA. You're there to get an education. You're not there for any other reason. Basketball must be all important, complete important for 2 hours a day. That's all I ask. I didn't have you do things afterwards, things of that sort. I didn't believe in that thing. I didn't want you, we didn't practice on Saturdays or Sundays or anything like that. But I wanted that 2 hours a day. I wanted a complete attention. And I didn't like it when I wasn't getting it.
Give us your definition of success, Coach.
Well, you want, I should give you the origin of it probably. I was raised on a small farm, and Dad tried to teach us to never try to be better than somebody else. Learn from others, and never cease trying to be the best you could be. Now, I learned that in grade school. And then I remembered a discussion of success that I had in college at a class when success was discussed. I remember certain things about that. And then I ran across a simple verse that said, at God's footstool to confess, a poor soul knelt and bowed his head. I failed, he cried. The master said, thou didst thy best. That is success. And I really believed that. And so I coined my own definition of success. I did this in 1934. Success is peace of mind, attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. And you're the only one that will know that. You can fool everybody else, but you can't fool yourself. That's what I tried to get across to youngsters under my supervision. Just do your best. That's all I ask. Make the effort. Do your best, and the score won't matter. I have the feeling that the score will be more to your liking most of the time. But did I ever mention winning?
Never once.
I don't mention winning, but I mention often. I want that peace of mind from you can have from knowing that you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. That's what I tried to use that as my philosophy.
But you wanted to win, didn't you, Coach?
Of course I wanted
Just
to
like
win.
that
Win and what
putt.
well, now wait a minute. Win according to what the general public considers winning.
Yeah.
Yes, but I wanted that to be a byproduct of this other thing, the preparation.
Yes.
And the peace of mind that you're going to attend from that.
Well, I know Swen has to leave. I'm not sure when the coach has to leave to get to the game, but whenever he says is when he's going to go. So maybe we have a few minutes, Coach, if you would.
Yes, we
Maybe we
have.
have a few questions.
What
We
time is
also
the
have
game?
some sandwiches for everyone,
Okay.
so I think they,
I have time.
okay, so anybody have a question, Mitch?
Hi, Coach. As you know, we are in the offices of a company called Lesson Plan, and we're in the business of helping teachers become better teachers. Now, we do it sometimes in a very unique way, possibly a good metaphor by the way you coach. Teachers sometimes don't approach what we do with enthusiasm, maybe kind of like some of your players. Maybe because they don't think they're getting paid enough, or maybe they think they don't need it, or maybe they think that, you know, whatever they do, it won't help because they teach kids that don't want to learn. What would you say to them to
Well,
help them see through that?
First of all, are they coming to you because they want to or because they have to?
Sometimes because they have to, sometimes because they want to. It's a combination.
Well, I think you have no trouble with those that want to.
Yeah.
It's those that have to. Maybe they're forced to do it. First of all, you've got to keep their interest. You've got to make it entertaining as best you can and still get you one. You have to work on different ways, and in my opinion, that's going to be different according to the different people. With some, it will work, and others. But give them attention. I found out in speaking sometimes, if you feel that you're losing your audience, make a mistake. Make a mistake. Like if I'm giving a poem, oh, I forgot that. I didn't forget it, but I'll say, oh, I forgot that, I forgot. Oh, he's just like us. He's just like us. And you'll get your attention back. You have to learn little tricks like that, if you call them tricks, to help maintain their attention. One time I was losing attention, and my wife was in the audience, and I said, Nellie, wake up. That pleased everybody around there. And she wasn't. She was wide awake. She didn't like it afterwards, she told me. But anyway, it served the purpose of getting their attention afterwards. And so little things like that to just try to, don't get upset at them. Don't get upset at them, no matter what. Don't get upset. I think there's where we tend to make our mistakes, and we get upset. We let emotion takes over. And when emotion takes over reason, it goes the other way. So I think you have to keep your emotions under control and let them know that you're just trying to help in different ways. And there's no formula because they're all different.
What would you say to those teachers that think that they don't need additional training or additional practice?
Those that don't need, those that think they don't need it are the ones that probably need it the most. I would say, generally speaking. I don't know how to answer it. It's just studying them as individuals and trying to figure out what will enable them to. You may have to try a different method from what you're doing. If it isn't working, you've got to try something else. Be amenable to change. There's no progress without change, although all change isn't progress. There's no progress without change, so we have to change for certain individuals.
I think that's right. I think working with teachers the last 40 years, that except for a minor, small percentage, every one of those teachers that are reluctant at first and don't want to do it and say, oh, I already know everything, if you get to know them a little bit, you can find something in their classroom or with their students that they're not happy with. And if you can find that out and you can connect with them on that, you'll get a change of heart. It won't come overnight. Like the coach says, everything that's going to last comes in small steps. It's not going to be a quick turnaround. But my experience is that most of those teachers, you can find a way.
The top of my pyramid leading up to the apex, on one side is what? Patience. On the other side is what? Faith. You have to be patient. Good things take time and should, and you have to have faith that things are going to work out as they should, providing you do what you should do to make that become reality. Sometimes we just want things to work out the way we want them to. We don't do the things that are necessary to help that become reality.
Somebody else have a question? I guess they're all ready for lunch, Coach.
There's
Russell?
Yes, again, for the quarter of John Wood's program. Just discovered when you were in the elementary school, I guess your basketball coach kept you out of the game, and I think it had something to do with the team not winning anyway, if you've been in there.
Yes.
What was he trying to teach you? Why did you?
Well, he taught me something too.
I knew I was the best player that we had. I knew that. And we were playing, I was in grade school, and we were playing another grade school that was coming from a few miles away. And Mr. Warner, the principal that I dearly loved, came around and said that Hazelwood, it was the Hazelwood grade school, they weren't going to be able to make it that afternoon. So after school was out, I went home. I lived only about a quarter of a mile. I went home for lunch, and then he came back in the afternoon and said that they're going to be there after all. And I said, I won't be able to make it because I didn't bring my shoes, and they weren't basketball shoes. We have real basketball shoes, some sort of shoes that you used, and the shorts that we used. And I said, I won't be able to play. And he said, well, that's too bad. I thought he's going to send somebody home to get him, but no. He said, well, that's too bad. So, boy, I took off, and I ran home, and I got him, and I was all ready. I came back, and I was in the warm-up, and then they started the game. He didn't have me in the game. And we played quarters, we went the whole first half, and I had been in the game. And we were losing. And It got in the second half, and we're losing, and finally I can't stand it any longer, and I went up and says, Mr. Warner, we can win this game if you put me in. I know, he said, we can, but there's more things far more important than that. You go sit down, no, you're tired. You ran home. Well, I learned. Never did I pull out anything like that again. I think it was a great lesson. Just as I think that my father gave me the hardest whipping I ever had. I never did something like that again.
I have a question. Coach, my name is Chris Corliss, and you have my younger brother played for you for
Casey?
years, Casey.
Yeah.
I'm now have been a coach, and I'm a coach of coaches now, teach coaches. What role, and that brings up, what role do you think ethics and character have in becoming a great teacher or a great coach? What part do developing ethics and character as a teacher or a coach have?
Well, I think it's important, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the great won and loss record. But I think you can be a great coach and not have a great won and loss record. Some of the finest coaches I know, some of the finest teachers I know in the game, do not have nearly as say the won and loss record that many of the college the coaches in the limelight today that you know. But I think they're still great coaches. It's like, well, being able to get the most out of what you have under your disposal. No one has exceptional years if they don't have exceptional players. You just don't. Now, not every coach has exceptional years with the exceptional players. Not every, because we're all different. Coaches are different in abilities, just as players are different in individuals. But I think the ones that I would want my youngsters to be under supervision are the ones that consider character and ethics certainly above the technical knowledge of playing the game.
Coach, I've known you for a lot of years. Is there ever anything that you bypassed in your life that you wish you had done, that you just put aside?
Well, after things happened that didn't turn out right, yes, I wish I wish I'd done differently. But I've tried to make the decision that I made, and whatever it was, the decision I thought was right at that particular time. But when it didn't work out right, and obviously I would have wished that maybe I had tried something else, doesn't mean it worked out. Let me give you an example of one that I'm ashamed of. In teaching in high school, I had a player, I remember Joe Marling, it's been many, many years ago, in the 30s then, and you had to have, our athletic board, youngsters had to play so many minutes or so much time or so many innings or so many quarters and so on to get their letter. Now, the letters were very meaningful in those days. Today, they don't even pick them up, it seems, the sweaters. But then they were very meaningful. Kids loved to wear, and their girlfriends liked to have them too. And I missed one. I had a player, Joe Marling, and he didn't qualify for the time. But a coach has the prerogative of making a recommendation, and they'll probably accept it. And I don't think they always did, but I think almost always they will if the coach recommends the person, even though he didn't have the amount of time necessary. And I had this young fella, and he didn't qualify, but he was on the borderline of whether I was going to recommend, and his father came see me one morning in the homeroom. Knocked the door, I went to the door, and I see Mr. Marling. I said, is Joe going to get a letter? And I said, well, I haven't really decided yet, you know. I said, he's told you he didn't qualify on the minutes, but that doesn't count him out. Oh, yeah, I'll tell you this. And he punched me in the nose, or in the chest. He said, if he doesn't, I'll have your job. Well, I was 20-something then, and I didn't like that. And my regret is I wanted to invite him outside, but I didn't. And but I didn't give Joe his letter. And I regret. I think that I think maybe I have every reason he didn't earn it, but I think that I probably, in all probability, if the dad hadn't done that, I think I've done it. So I'm ashamed of that. I'm very, very ashamed of that. And so there, yes, I wish I'd have done something differently. And I had a similar incident at UCLA, not on that type, but it's something where I made a statement about a player that I said he gave me the impression he didn't want to play. And the player came to me after this particular game, and the next on Monday following it, and he said, did you make this statement? I said, yes. And he said, if you don't take it back and apologize, I'm going to quit. I said, I can't take it back. I made it. And I believe it. And I told him why, exactly why. And he said, oh, if you don't take it back, apologize. I said, well, I can't do it. Well, I wish I'd have somehow worked it out a different way, because this young man did drop the team and dropped out of school, and I've sort of lost track of him. I know his sister, and I've talked with her, and he was an unusual type of individual. He was known as the Phantom, which is kind of indicative of the type of individual you just hardly know around. He was a good student, but he was not particularly close to anyone on the team, and you didn't know much about him. And even his sister, when I talked to her sometime years later, she said, well, you know him, and we don't know much about him. So, but there, you think it's something I should have worked it different. He would have graduated. He was a good student. He had finished school and he graduated. And so I feel responsible that for not reacting or handling it in some different way.
Okay, so maybe we ought to stop now, and we have the sandwiches. Maybe we're going to bring them over here, Bill. They're in the cafe. Thanks.
Brought up some things you haven't thought about for a while.